HojuKimchi, Australian kimchi. What's up?
안녕하십니까? Uh,
안녕하세요.
I'm wearing my contacts, so fuck that. All right, how you going, man?
Sup, sup, sup. Another week, another Korean kimchi. I mean, another Australian kimchi to fry. So what's going on? What are we cooking?
Hey, as you can see by what Boz is wearing, it's getting pretty cold here in Sydney. Around the temperatures of probably 7 degrees right now outside, I reckon. Pretty cold.
Yeah, and I don't like the cold, eh? So I'm very anti-cold. So just putting on what I can. How about yourself?
I don't mind it. I don't really get affected that much by the cold or the heat. So yeah, it's all good. But yeah, I do find Sydney winter pretty cold. It's if you think that the that it doesn't get cold in Sydney, you're wrong. It's a different type of cold. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like people, for some reason, it's like, oh, just the degrees. It's not that cold. It's really cold inside the house.
yeah.
Like especially if you have old house or living in an old house, it's cold. And since I moved to an older house, it's freezing compared to apartment. Apartment's not that cold, the new ones, but freezing.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So today's topic is, well, in this freezing cold, we're gonna touch on a very hot topic and quite timely for this current climate because what's happened in Korea recently, there's been the presidential election. And we thought, yeah, let's touch the hot topic of politics. Yeah.
Dead presidents represent me.
Where's that from?
Nas.
Yeah, where?
Dead president. Like, oh no, no, Jay-Z dead presidents.
Okay, okay. Anyway, the Black Republican is a good song. We need to touch on US hip
Yeah.
hop soon. But
Yeah,
anyway,
US hip hop, eh? Yeah, it's been a while.
all right. So politics. So let me just kick it off. I was just as preparing for this podcast, I thought about like when I became interested in politics, and I never thought I would. Like it's such a I just shit thing, right? Like who gives a shit about politics when you're in your early 20s or whatever? And then over the years, I've always enjoyed, I guess, debates and drama and analysis. So, even when I watch basketball, and I know you're the same, Boz, in terms of all the footy analysis that you sort of consume. I watched like so much basketball analysis. And I guess politics was like an extension of that. So at the end of the day, there's like, people fighting, and then there's all these analysis around it. And for me, like the big catalyst was Korean politics when Park Geun-hye, about 10 years ago, she was impeached, and there was like so much fucking media coverage and around that. So that was like the whole kind of, I guess, yeah, catalyst for me to get much more interested in politics. So, yeah, what about you, man?
Yeah, agendas and opinions and yeah, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, for me, I'm much the same, and probably even to this day, like much very distant from it. So I guess this will be more like just me taking on like very uneducated takes, but which is what it's all about. But yeah, like certainly, I when I grew up, I was not interested, like 0% as a kid. It's definitely in my teens, 0% as well. Early 20s, like, you know, practically zero. Like, I really did not care at all, which definitely meant all the voting was always like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Throughout like mid 20s and then late 20s, I think that's when it was like, okay, getting some form of foundation in terms of like, I always had the general idea left versus right and all that sort of stuff. And Australia just wasn't a huge thing. So maybe in the States of Korea, it would have been bigger on what stance you are, but in Australia, it just was like pretty much, F all difference, particularly to the like working middle class ish, from my end anyway, certainly. So I'm pretty much the same, but I I have seen like from a bird's eye view the landscape changing as a whole on, in terms of like these days wokeness and what's what's like publicly acceptable and what's not like, and that is shown through what I consume would be like media
Yeah.
shows and stuff like what you can't say, what you can't say, work,
Mm,
office, like all that sort of stuff,
mm,
which stems from
mm.
world politics, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably the connection I have. And again, which is why you'll have the, brash takes that I
Yes.
might have.
All right. Well, let's speaking of being uneducated, so let's start with that, which kind of influences this topic a little bit. But for those of you who don't know, Australia in Australia, voting is mandatory. Um, what
Above 18. Yeah.
Yes, for adults it's
Yes.
mandatory. For Australian citizens of over 18, it is mandatory. And I believe there aren't that many countries that that's the case. What's your stance on that?
Nah, garbage. Absolute garbage. Like, I'm a great example of it. I've probably, how many years of rubbish voting? Like, because I had to vote, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I think I'm
Who
a
have
great
you
example of
voted
that.
over these years?
Nah, nah. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
when I was like 18 to like 25, 27, it would have just been like, I would not have any idea. Like, I think I
You
voted
voting
like
for the
as a
Greens
joke.
and shit?
Yeah, like as a joke, I'd vote for like
As a joke.
those other like parties.
Minor
Like
parties.
just like yeah, like I remember I did a streak of like the weed party for a while. Like they even just said like legalize marijuana or some stuff like that. Yeah, because I know it's never gonna happen. That's the thing.
Right.
Like so I'll just do stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
One Nation as a joke or whatever, right? So I'm a prime, great question. I'm a prime example of why it's garbage, I guess. So over to
But
you.
do you think it is significant enough to influence the result? Like your dud votes?
Um, if you do Labour or Liberal, maybe. Like if there's so many people who just like do that, like, oh, my dad's Labour, my mum's like, stuff like that, and just vote like that. I wonder if that influences the votes. Um, who knows? I have now I vote so I can complain, right? As a citizen of this country, I'll vote so then I can start mad bitching about it. You know what I mean?
Do you think it should be optional in as like in other countries?
I think so. I think so. Me personally, yes.
Okay, but
What's your take?
you still get dumb shits voting anyway without knowing. Like just because it's mandatory, I guess it's more likely to have dud votes from it being mandatory. But just because it's optional, it doesn't mean you're going to get educated votes.
Yeah, good point. But you will get people who won't vote for the sake of it. So people who
Yep.
really are not participating properly.
Hmm.
And obviously because they would be like, oh, I don't give a F, so they won't make the effort to do it. So you'll get rid of all those votes.
Well, won't
You know
those
what I
dud
mean?
votes cast themselves out?
Yeah, look, I mean, it could, but like, yeah, look, I guess at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like whether it's mandatory or not, it's probably going to be the same winner. That's what you're trying to allude to, right? Like the results will be the same whether it's mandatory or not. Is that what you mean?
Uh, no, like I am on your camp in terms of educated votes matter, and for that, I think they should do a test.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's like how I don't think anyone should be allowed to have pets and stuff. Yeah, so something like that. Like so I guess what you're saying is so say I was a really passionate, educated political voter, I
Mm.
would have to go through this test and because I am so passionate and I care about it, I will make the effort to put into the like effort to do the test to vote. Whereas you got people like me who would be like, mate, maybe I'm not gonna do the test because I don't care that much to vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm talking about like really well, something fairly basic in like for instance to just test the knowledge of the voter so that they have some knowledge of like the what's the word? The 정책, the policies that each candidate represents, or something like that. So just like one or two questions before you actually vote to qualify your vote or not, type of thing. But anyway, um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say this. Like I think more people will vote in Australia if, like, so let's say you got like the slice of the huge bell curve, and then like if Labor and Liberal actually significantly impacted a huge chunk of what I call the homin, the everyday man, the everyday
mhm.
person, the everyday
The average Joe
woman,
Blow.
yeah, then I think there would be people who care a bit more, perhaps. Like, if that makes sense. Because for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Labor or Liberal doesn't severely impact the middle class person in Australia, as far as I'm concerned, to the point where you're really, really going to impact your family. As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Particularly now, this is coming from a Sydney middle class. Like, I know some of the policies can really help other cities, maybe. So, like, you got like these random ones, like, oh, you can be a first time buyer and buy like a 650K house with a 5% deposit, blah, blah, blah. Like, that doesn't exist in Sydney,
mhm.
if that makes sense. So, like some of these policies just BS because like it does not help anyone who lives in Sydney,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. Yeah. So just stuff like that for me, I feel like a lot of, and obviously Sydney having a huge population, all the major cities or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, would that be a fair call? Like, would people
Well,
care more
but then, okay,
if
so, but
it's
that
severely?
comparison needs to be made with like other countries, right? In terms of how big an impact the leader has on the lives of everyday people, right? Do you think it's more in, say, like Korea or the US, which are the other two countries that we'll talk about aside from Australia? Those three countries obviously had elections this year, but yeah, like I don't know. I guess our from our uneducated knowledge of those two countries, do you think there's a greater impact?
From what I know, yes,
Yep.
particularly because there's huge gaps, right? First of all, way bigger population, which obviously leads to a bigger bell curve, like a bigger
Yep.
gap in the bell curve, yada yada, naturally, just numbers
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's number one. So
Mhm.
I do feel yes. So you got far more richer people and far more poorer people
Yep.
for the use of a better for the use of a better analogy. But yeah, so it's just yeah, you'll have far more extremes, which
Okay.
I'm
So
pretty
due
sure is the
to the
case.
wider wealth gap, you think it's bound to have a bigger impact depending on who the leader or the which side of the spectrum that they are politically.
Yeah, correct. And hotter debate and blah blah blah. Like, because that's when I was in Korea. One of the things was like people didn't really talk politics because it can get heated. Whereas here, people just like IDGAF, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like they all very just like scratching the surface, like us sort of peeps.
Mm.
Whereas in Korea and US, there was certainly a bit
Mm.
more, well, US you can speak because you got family there, but what I've seen of the US and the US friends that I've had, yeah, like it's way more impactful.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. And the US, they're just more sensitive around shit like this in general, right? Like politics, like racial stuff. Like they're just more sensitive and cautious around it. But yeah, maybe if it was the degree of polarization that reflects on the impact that it has on the everyday people, yeah, I'm sure in Korea and US it's more severe than here for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's my view anyway. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, Australia, we had our election, what, maybe 2, 3 months ago, and um, I, for me, it felt like a really massive campaign that I'd never experienced. I don't know if that was the case for you. Like all these text messages that I got, and just posters everywhere, and I thought it was going to be a really hotly contested election. It obviously didn't end up being that way, like in terms of consequences. But yeah, what do you think?
Uh, well, I think the text messages and all that like stuff, it's more because of the modern world, way more exposure and stuff like that. So I'll say that. Second, I feel like this one now, correct me if I'm wrong, it was just like a massive hate on Dutton as well. Like so, like it was just like the character and like a couple of policies that he outlined, and then that's what the thing with this country because people are just so like uneducated, like myself. You just hear this one policy and you're like, man, that sucks. I can't vote for that
What
guy, kind of thing.
the
And I
work from
think
home thing?
the work from home thing, like he literally like there were so many people that I know that were just literally like, yeah, like he's gonna do like it was just painted in their head that like yeah, he's trying to do a Trump of everyone back in the office 5 days and blah 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 and like and then that just turns people off. And then I think a few other things and his character, his demeanor, whatever, like not reading the room kind of thing of just going way too one-sided on and not reading the room.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like maybe Trump read the room a little bit more, like obviously different
Trump.
scale, different
Okay.
scale.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like, that's what America wanted. Like, yeah, like make a, make America great again. Like that's what like Australia wasn't really ready for that. It's
Well, I
still a
think
lot of left. It's
yeah,
still a
no,
lot of left.
my take on it
It's still a
was
lot of like, that
yeah. My take on the result was that enough people were happy about the current status, so that they didn't really see the need for change. Well, that I think that was the biggest one. And then two, like yeah, the fear or the anti-Trump kind of thing, yeah, impacting our election as well. And Dutton himself, he comes across as a bit of a cold, unempathetic type of dude, right? And then obviously like the Labor like framed it beautifully with the whole yeah work from home thing. So yeah, that was my sort of observation. Not very educated, very on the surface level, but yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah, same, same. I'm pretty
Yeah.
much the same. Again, Aussie politics. I don't know how far we can talk about it, but for me, it's always been the same. Not a huge effect on like the common Aussie man in terms of that real big gap.
Mm.
But I guess people get into it a lot more because purely for as you said, the hype, the drama and whatever. But I
Mm.
don't like like I said, it probably affects a lot of like, sole traders, business people. Like that's what I'm saying. Apart from those people, but like the
Yeah,
common salary man person,
yeah.
I correct me if I'm wrong, but there is just not much like tax cut, like that leeway from both ends. It's not enough for it to be an impact, right? Surely.
Yeah, I guess the biggest issues here in Australia are stuff like housing, immigration, um what else? What else is big here? Housing, immigration. Yeah, like the well, like I guess the those two are most what we feel just directly. I guess the impact of I suppose, but yeah, no, it's just come to think of it. So Korea, it's maybe is the most polarized, just given how they just fuck each other up. Like one party takes a government, and then the other party like they send them to jail. Like there's like impeachment. There's like the most kind of violent seesawing going on, I suppose.
Yeah, like Korea is almost there's another layer of like just the Koreanness, right? Like in terms of like Koreans having different polarizing opinions against each other too, right? Which can stem from the politic, but just in general in terms of like class, social status, um, area, like the whole like down
Region.
south
Yeah,
versus
yeah,
region, yeah, all that sort of stuff,
yeah,
history, right?
yeah.
Like so, I remember Dad saying like back in the day, like the Park Chung, whatever that line, that lineage, like people would just vote for that part, like that party or that lineage of party to this day because of that, like
Yeah,
no
yeah.
matter what
Just the
and stuff
recent
like that.
election as well. If you look at the map, it
Yeah,
was like red on one side. Like it was like split right down the middle of the map. Red on one side and then blue on the other.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hey, I heard they switched colors. Is that true?
I
Korea?
forgot. I don't know. I don't know who's red and who's.
Bro, like that is so weird. So like red's traditionally the labor, right? And blue's tradition like so red is left and blue is right traditionally,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
But apparently that was swapped
Yeah, and I'm pretty
this time
sure
around.
red is conservative now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
So
wait, or was Korea always like that? Because now, because
uh, I have no
in
idea.
here, in here, it's the opposite, right? That's why.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
Labor's red. Yeah, but maybe because of the whole like you call them bargaining, so maybe they don't want to use red.
Well, that's what I thought. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah.
So and then so the reason that I got into Korean politics so much was like despite the fact that it has no impact on my everyday life at all, um, is because of like those multi layers like the 지역 감정. And then the whole like we're still warring against the North, so there's like the policy around how we handle
The
North.
army and defense, yeah.
Yeah, whether you take the side of America or China, that's like a real issue in Korea. Whereas like in Australia, we're well in the camp of US, so it's not really divided. And then just the media coverage, like it's insane how much analysis and all these debates are on and shit like that. So yeah, that's why I got really into it like during Park Geun-hye's impeachment, and then like recently when Yoon Suk-yeol got impeached, like that shit really kind of like yeah becomes catalyst or yeah.
Yeah, and then Koreans also like there's a big like YouTube social media, like everyone's got their own sort of agendas, I suppose.
Hmm,
Like, and I remember my dad is less into it now, but when he was into it, like during
hmm,
like the Park Geun-hye and all that sort of stuff, she was like blasting like that politics shit. And if I was like fully understanding Korean language and stuff,
yeah.
imagine like how much effect that would have. But like I would like it's a full propaganda shit. Um, so yeah, so it's kind of crazy. But like it's funny because like obviously my family is predominantly left, particularly my dad's heavy left. My mum was probably like left-ish, and then like I'm obviously the opposite. It's funny how that's the case, um but yeah, like that's how like passionate that shit is to be blasting. And I can't talk politics with my family because like we're on opposite sides, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's so like I'm very like I
Hang
don't
on,
really talk
but
about it.
so you would be considered right in your dad's eyes?
Yeah, yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, have you
And
guys
I've
ever?
gotten more right. I've gotten way more right as time progresses, like
Yeah, but
now.
have you
Yeah.
guys like
Yeah.
talked about it actually?
Not in a while. Not
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
while. Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
talk to my dad especially, both my parents, but my dad especially about politics all the time. It's like a very easy trigger. If I want him to go on a fucking 2 hour rant, I would just like push the buttons around that, and he would go on and on.
Yeah, but you're both right though. So
Well,
it's easier.
in his eyes, I'm left.
Oh, seriously?
Because this guy is fucking out there to the right. So like as the Korean Gonde rights are, they are like fucking hardcore, right? And the Taegukgi Budae, right? So I don't know if you've heard that term. So there's these Gondes who go out to the streets with like Taegukgi and then the American flag, and they're like parading and shit. And
Yeah, dude, I've seen it. I lived in Korea, remember? I've
right,
seen it.
right, right.
Yeah, and they've hand out free coffees and shit. I just like go for the coffee, British and shit. I'll be like, tell me Gook. So your dad's like one of them, right? Or the
Oh,
Hammermans,
hardcore,
whatever
man,
shit.
hardcore.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And yeah, every
that's the
time we talk politics, yeah, it goes nowhere. Yeah, he's an educated, very reasonable man, but when it comes to this, nah, all of that shit goes out the window.
Or that's the thing. Like, I now wonder if they did ever have a beef on it. Because I like your dad and my dad had some
Mm,
bullshit back in the day, right? Probably over some golf bullshit,
mm,
right?
mm,
But
mm.
but I wonder if that comes from the roots, like where it's like your dad's fucking, mad right and my
Yep,
dad's mad left,
yep.
and that sort of shit. I'm sure plays an effect.
Oh, dude, your political stance is actually pretty important. Like just in terms of what shapes the person's values and beliefs, right? Like it's an underlying sort of fundamental thing.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm saying. So for me, that as I said, being again, to use that hot word at the moment for us, being like an uneducated politics lad, for
Mm.
me, it's like it just comes down to the basics, right? Let's just cut it back. So
Yep.
left is basically
Beautiful.
fucking, oh, government, help me, like,
You do it without the fucking bias. Okay,
no
but anyway,
jokes.
humor me. Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, no, so left is basically like yeah, like handouts, government help me, like let's help the poor, like let's just give shit to them, that.
Go on.
And the right's like fucking free market capitalism, baby. And then it's like, it's just like, if I can buy 10 houses, I can buy 10 houses. And if you can't buy one ever, bad luck. Like that's, extreme right? Basically. So
Yep.
um look, obviously that was tongue in cheek,
It's like
but
the most
uh,
dumbed down version of left versus right ever.
nah, but yeah, basically is I feel like, the right is trying to help people to help themselves, kind of like, teach them to fish rather than giving them a fish. Yeah, basically. And
Do
then
you feel,
yeah.
do you really think it's about teaching them how to fish, or is
No,
like,
it's probably a cover up, but I
yeah,
think that's a mad cover up as well. Like, I mean, okay, let's dumb it down even more. Left is
yeah.
rich people, please pay more tax so we can even it out. So bargaining style, basically, and then right is more let the rich people pay less tax so that people get more motivated to become wealthy
Yeah,
and succeed and stuff. Basically, like, so the
yeah, I
right
think
is
that,
to
okay.
motivate. Yeah, look,
Whenever
that's the
I,
crux of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Just on in a very similar vein, whenever I've had to explain to people, usually girls, because they're like less interested in politics, I would say in a classroom, if you're the teacher, like, do you focus more on helping the 꼴찌 come up a little bit? Is that where you would focus your primary attention, or do you focus more on, just the classroom as a whole, or maybe the smartest kid excelling to the best of their ability, or some shit like that?
Cream of the crop, baby. Cream of the crop. For those who want to learn, come to class. For those who don't worry about it. For those who are stuck in the middle trying to succeed, come along, try your best.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why
So,
I'm right.
when we kind of break it down like that, both of us are sort of leaning more towards the right, but when we sort of put ourselves in the context of those three countries that we mentioned, Australia, Korea, and US, I think it's different because, okay, here in Australia, I vote right. In Korea, I'm probably voting like mid-left. Uh,
Yeah, correct. Look, I know where
yeah,
you're coming from. Yeah,
and
so
then America, I reckon I would be more likely to vote left.
maybe back in the day, I would say recently, I feel like if I was American, like, hey, dude, I'm from LA. Hey, dude. Nah, I feel like if I was, well, fucking Californians are left, aren't they? But
Californians and New Yorkers are left, man. Like the big cities and states are left.
yeah, what's with that, eh? But I feel like the
Because
recent
they're like
ones I've been
progressive and
more.
shit. Yeah,
Hmm.
like obviously, Cali, like they're all hippies and shit, and then New
Yeah,
York,
yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah,
all
Cali.
progressive and woke. So, and so it's really like
But New York, surely there's two sides of New York. New York, the
yeah, of
progressive are the
course.
people who are like, oh, go to the theater. Oh, let's go Broadway. But obviously you got
How,
like
when did they become English, mate? I thought
Queens
that was
Bridge.
Um, yeah, so I don't know, like depending on the country, like each country has like different spectrum. Like, and I
Different
remember
vibe.
Jang said this a while back that every person thinks that they're in the center.
Yeah, yeah. Well, funny you say that because okay, that's just what I was about to say. So I hate to sit on the fence, but I think it is fair to say we probably, like I said, teetered on. If again, if this is the center, we probably teetered around there rather than go extreme on either side.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not trying to sit on the fence, but that is probably the case. Like as you said, sometimes I'm here, depending on the country of, if I had a gun to my head and had to vote, right?
Yeah, yeah.
As you're saying,
Mm.
I feel like I'm going mad right these days, more for like, like the woke. I'm not huge into that. Like I'm Roman Catholic as well, so I want to stick to my Catholic values, right? So don't want stuff to be shoved down my throat, so which inclines me to vote right.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So like just stuff that, that that I would like consider stuff like, how Trump had only male and female and all that sort of stuff, So I mean, I think that stuff's important now, right? For a lot of
yeah.
people, you know. Um, yeah, and like, it makes me think about public education and stuff like that as well, like because now it's like, oh,
Yeah,
like
what do you
you
want? What
can't
do you think about
like
public?
you can't have you like as in like I heard about stuff like this, like you can't have like these days they're trying to get change curriculums and books where, if you have a book where the traditional, like dad goes to work, mum does the laundry, and then some, put like, some person comes and says, we can't have that. We can't have that
I thought
happening.
you were going to talk about like how important public education is and how much money should be spent on it, which is more of a left approach. Is in like the big government is traditionally a left thing, right?
Yeah, no, dude, I'm pro public education, man.
Yeah.
Like, I really am pro public education because I don't, um, totally side, don't get me started. I actually think, like, I think Wu had the idea like fucking Hagwons should be banned in Korea or whatever. Like I'm of that ilk. Like kids should not have to be forced into that BS because they have no choice, right? Like it's a lot from the parents and stuff. Anyway, that's a whole different segment, but
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of kids should be kids as far as I'm concerned. Like certainly from like primary school, I have a huge belief that kids should be kids, and I really want to raise my kids that way. Um, I do have a Korean wife, so that, there's going to be a bit of push and pull,
Yeah.
a bit of negotiation. But my childhood was all about, having fun,
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
no. But then hey, you're going down like a. I think that's a separate conversation to
Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
reflect on
anyways, yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
public
Anyways, yeah. So I'm going back to the politics of because policies that will determine like what is allowed and what's not allowed at public schools and all that sort of jazz, right?
Yep.
Particularly like all this gender stuff and all that sort of stuff. So I don't want that stuff for my kids, man.
Mm.
That's just how what I feel.
Yep.
Let
Yep.
them
Yep.
be kids, right?
Yep.
So stuff like that will sway votes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
But
has
okay,
swayed
so
votes
if
in
we're talking
America.
about like freedom, like there's we can talk about I guess the freedom of speech, like freedom of belief, what we want and shit like that. Does that mean I can you know call myself a woman? Do I have the freedom for that?
I mean, you can, but you can't force others to call you a woman,
Yep. Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I've always been like. As in you can do what you want, but you can't expect others to do what you want.
Mm. Mm.
Right? Fair call.
Fair call. Well said, mate.
Fair call, mate. Fair call. It's like be a woman, it's fine. But if you're born a male and you expect me to call you a woman, hey, where's my freedom on that one? Right? So it's like the whole it goes around and around in circles. But that's what I'm saying. I've got nothing against you do what you want, but let me do what I want too.
Yep, yep. I think again, yeah, that is very much of a right approach, and I suppose in terms of yeah, individuals' freedom, focusing on that, which I think is
100%. Yeah, because there's a big difference between being a bigot and a hater and stuff compared to like, hey, you do you, but like let me do me, compared to like, actually like antagonizing and hating and whatnot. Big difference.
yeah, yeah. But then, like it comes to whether how much should we be protecting the weak in society, like those who if everyone's kind of fighting for themselves or whatever, there's bound to be people who get left behind or so on.
Yeah, like
Okay, so let's first talk about the recent Korean election, and then let's go to some of those questions on the community. You cool with that?
yeah, I like that. Yeah, we probably freestyle rambled a bit, but I think people get
That's
the
fine.
gist of
Yeah.
where we at. But yeah, yeah,
All
okay,
right.
yeah, go
So,
for
what
it.
do you know about the recent things that happened in Korea?
All I know is just as far as I know. So the dude who is right. called martial law, which for those who don't know, it means the army rule the nation. Now, this is very sensitive in the Republic of Korea because there was a, before South Korea became what it is today, there was a dictatorship from a dude, and he used martial law to overtake the presidency, and then he basically he was ruling the whole time because he would just get like the military votes or whatever. Like there wasn't a citizen vote, and he just killed like heaps of university students and stuff because they were like all the educated university students who had like global information were
Mm,
like this is dictatorship. So basically it's interesting because South Korea is like super like advanced country at the moment, like modern tech and all that stuff,
mm,
but this was in the 80s. I think 1987 was when they were liberated from the dictatorship. So basically they were getting like, yeah, it was like a dictatorship, literally.
mm.
Like not as fierce as North Korea, but it was basically a dictatorship, whereas in citizens couldn't vote for the leaders
Not
and
as fierce
stuff.
as North Korea. Okay, okay, go
Well,
on.
North Korea is basically like,
Yeah, no, it's
can't
like
do
it's
nothing. Yeah,
incomparable. But
yeah,
anyway, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it was just like you could you could you were living your life, but you couldn't vote, like
yeah,
basically. So maybe this comes down to yeah how important. Like I know I'm privileged to be living in Australia and grow up here,
yeah.
but I'm saying yeah, that's what it was like, and there was this massive demonstration, and then they basically got overtook from what I know. And then this guy tried to pull it off again, but like it just wouldn't work because it's just way too modern and everyone's got
Oh, when you're
access
saying
now.
this guy, you're talking about Yoon Sung-yeol?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
recent
yeah, yeah,
president
yeah,
tried to pull it off again, and
yeah.
obviously, like people like, no, it's not. It's not
Okay.
going to work. We won't have any of that. Thanks.
Yeah, okay.
Basically. So
Okay.
yeah, feel free to make that a bit more educated.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Where do we start? So there was a military coup a long time ago, like I don't know, in the 60s or something, and that was Park Chung-hee. Yeah, you know about Park Chung-hee, the great president who put Korea on the map basically in terms of
Arguably the
yeah.
greatest president of
Oh
South
yeah, I
Korea, and
think
then he got assassinated. He
yeah,
got
yeah.
assassinated,
I
man.
think well definitely on the conservatives would vote him as the greatest, and then on the left Kim Dae-jung or Nomeon. Anyway, so this guy he went on like a 20-year run and put Korea on the map, and then as you said he got assassinated. And
Why
there's
did he get assassinated though? Why did people hate him if he put Korea on the map?
it was like so after like a long time, long period of dictatorship, it's bound to sort of corrupt, and people people were trying to overthrow him. So like the KCIA boss, who basically was number two, tried to overthrow him but failed.
Oh yeah, so people started wanting a bit of taste of power and whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like, was the country
basically.
doing good though? But was the country doing good?
Economically, yes, I think.
But like, what was the grief then? Were people
Human
like
rights,
unhappy
human
or
rights,
yeah,
basically,
human
because
rights?
there
Yeah,
was
so
there was
like
like a lot of oppression.
yeah, like working dog hours and all
Yeah,
that sort
yeah,
of
shit
stuff,
like that.
right?
Shit
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yeah, the civil rights and
that. Yeah.
human rights and all that sort of stuff.
Have you seen the movie 남산의 부장들? The one with
Yeah,
이병헌 and oh fuck, what's that guy's name? The epic,
정우성.
no, 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 the epic 아저씨.
Yes, 윤도현,
No, no, no. What is
윤도현.
anyway, 됐고.
The guy from 1987.
이거
Is it
팔찌.
the guy from 1987?
Nah, I'm talking about the guy. Oh my
The
God.
guy from 타짜된 김도연, 곽도연.
No, no, the 바바리 몇 개고. that 아저씨. 아무튼 있어. 근데
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
there's an epic movie about the assassination. So if you haven't seen it, I'll watch it. Anyway, after the assassination, there was another recent movie about the next guy, the next military coup, which is 전두환, right?
I've seen that one. That's the one with 정우성.
Yes, yes,
Yes, I've
yes.
seen that one. That was
And
sick.
and
That
and,
was
and
good.
Hwang Jung-min's role is 전두환, and then so he does the big military coup. And then Gwangju 5.18 happens and then kills like heaps of civilians and shit like that. And that's what a lot of Koreans have a bit of a, post-traumatic, disorder about it, PTSD about.
Yeah, and it's massive like debate, right? Like, so because what do your parents think about that Gwangju
Oh,
incident?
they're on the right. So they were like that riot was
Yeah,
caused by North Koreans in Jeollado. So it was
but like,
triggered. So they were like spies in Gwangju, and it was like
yeah,
kind of
and then and then they triggered the students and whatever. But like
yeah,
then,
or the just the civilians in general. But like that's a pretty minor view these days. But that was like a pretty widespread view back in the day. So this is like quite a generational thing.
yeah, of course. But
A
like,
lot
what
of
do they
the
think about the
yeah.
death of the uni students though? They can't just be like, oh, they were spies though.
Yeah, but I think they would say that they were like
Coerced, right?
tricked or led
Yeah, yeah,
by the spies. The bugging.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But imagine if that was you, but if you were a uni student that was coerced, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
delusion to say that, I reckon.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, like obviously the Koreans have a like trauma to that, and then yeah, the recent guy Yoon Song-yeol. So basically, he came into power when um,
Yeah, because people were hating Moon Jae-in because he was fucking up the rich a bit.
yeah, hang on, what was it? Um, yeah, no, okay. So he became 검찰총장 in under Moon Jae-in because he was like investigating sh the shit out of Park Geun-hye, right? So when Park Geun-hye was getting impeached, and then Moon Jae-in brought Yoon Song-yeol in to like investigate the shit out of her, and then he basically grew a big head and came into politics, and then all the anti-Moon Jae-in people basically voted him in, and. But then the parliament is owned by the left right now. So like he couldn't like push laws through and stuff. So he just he got the
Yeah,
shits
it was getting
at
cucked. It was getting
yeah, he
cucked.
got the
Yeah.
shits at people like marandering basically. And then he's like, fuck this, I'm gonna like just smash him. And then he just miserably failed. So he just backlashed, and then he got impeached. But basically that's what happened. So after that, after he got impeached, there was like the snap election, and the guy who won he won like the last election against Yoon Song Yeol. He lost by like the closest margin, and he's like meant to be like a working class, the people's man, and he was a very good sort of administrator, but he's always had a bit of a um, question mark over his head because he's like I don't, he's been alleged on like all this corruption and all these like personal matters, and there's a lot of like question marks around that. And then so yeah, he's the left guy, and then the guy on the right is like I don't know, some guy like fucking some mad gonde. And then there was this guy Lee Jun-suk who is like a year or two older than us, and he was trying to, and he's like super smart guy. He went to like Seoul and Harvard, and like all super smart guy. Came into politics from like mad early,
Oh,
but
because that makes you automatically smart.
of course. And then but then he was criticized for being like a very um, like causing a lot of like generational divide and gender divide and shit like that because he spoke up against like PC shit and like feminists and shit like that. So he copped a lot of crap. And then he came across all like Sagaji during the debates, and yeah, no, people didn't like him. So he didn't even get 10%. But he got like 8.5% or something. The conservative guy like got like over 40. Lee Jae-myung got a shade under 50, and then he won. Yeah.
So the left guy won,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then like, oh, the conservatives are like, oh, if this guy takes power, like Korea is fucked. Like, they've been saying that shit for ages. So we'll see.
Okay, so they'll be pretty mad. So your folks will be mad right now, then,
Oh,
hey?
they were like, oh, Korea's fucked. Like, forget about it. It's game over.
That's why you love Korean politics, man. Because when the guy before got in, like my dad and
Yeah,
his
yeah.
yeah, my dad and his lefty cronies were like, "Oh, Korea's fucked. It's over GG and shit," you know.
Yeah, it's just
So that's what I
either way
mean
they're
by
fucked.
Korea. Yeah,
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 but then I
yeah.
guess Yoon Sung-yeol did like he fucking pulled out martial law. So Like that was pretty bad. Like he did fuck up.
Yeah, no, no,
It's pretty
that
big.
was stupid. Yeah, that's just like it's just that's that's like the Broncos, when they gave up the premiership. It's the same shit, man. Just had it and just gave it away. Hey, on that, I actually want
Yeah,
to ask then,
yeah.
and we'll probably touch Korea a bit more because it's probably interesting. But
Mm, mm.
so I guess one of the things that people care about a lot in Korea is number one, the whole tax thing. Because I heard Moon Jae-in, a lot of the people like, and Woo's told us bits and pieces because he's upper middle class as well, but
Yep,
he was really like effing up a lot of that sort of demographic, like
yep,
from upper middle to rich.
yep,
And I guess people have much less sympathy for rich. When I say rich, I mean like rich, rich, right? I don't mean
yep,
like
yep,
just,
yep,
upper middle. So, but you got that massive upper middle class in Korea too.
yeah, yeah.
So I think those people were super unhappy, like people who had, like one or two properties and stuff, like
Mm,
just in that realm. And
yeah.
then he was really making them suffer because they probably worked very hard for those. I mean, because that upper middle in Korea, I would probably equate to like middle here, like me, that
Mm,
type of family who has like one property and they're working hard, they're earning like, mid to high incomes and all that, and it probably screwed them a lot. So that's the impression that I get.
mm.
Um, yeah,
I
is
don't
that why
that
he
no
lost?
no, but I
Yeah.
don't know about that. Like as in I don't know how badly it fucked them over. And if that's the case, I would imagine that they are less popular. But Moon Jae-in wasn't that unpopular, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like again, I have no idea. That's
Yeah.
what I heard
Yeah.
anyway. So, but yeah, what?
The shade on Lee Jae-myung as well is that he's like very much of a populist. So he would just say shit to please people or like give
Yeah,
like say all these policies
like crowd pleaser. Yeah,
to get votes. So we'll see how much he actually delivers on it. And he doesn't really have, I guess like he's like a bit of a pragmatist in that he's like doesn't really have like a political stance. You know, he's obviously representing the left side, but you know, he's said shit like, "Oh, I'm actually a conservative," and like, I don't know. So he's kind of he'll do whatever it takes to just kind of achieve whatever he wants.
okay, okay, let's break it down Gultong style then. Okay, so if you were the president of South Korea, all right,
Yep.
so like like overarching, like what needs to be done? And I think we had this pub convo before,
Mm.
but in your eyes, from our uneducated, nothing to do with Korea eyes,
Yep.
um, what do you think? Like, because obviously there's huge gaps. So just to give you some context, you got like all the oldies. Obviously, you got like old oldies, like the
Yep.
할아버지 할머니es. Then you got like straight under that, you've got our folks who've been through the, sort of born in the war period and then like living, immigrated, but like, that as well.
Mm.
And the people who stayed there. Then
Mm.
you got like right now the people who are like 40 to 60 who are working like dogs in Korea, whatever, all the kwajangs and shit. And then you got the 20s to 40s, right? Like, and
Yeah.
obviously you can probably split that.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think people are thinking in Korea, like in that sense, and
Okay,
what
okay.
needs to
Let me break
yeah.
down the sort of the demographic landscape, right? So you got the baby boomers who are like basically 70 and plus now, and they're like fucking just all right. You know, so they lived through Park Chung-hee glory days and they made, they worked like dogs and made a lot of money and like like my parents. And then we got I guess the generation below who were like the protesting against like the dictatorship and shit. And then so they're like the left. And then it's like after that it's like 40 and below, which is kind of a mix. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the landscape.
Yeah, and the 40 and below generally depends on their family as well, if they're wealthy or not, to be truthful in Korea. But anyway,
Uh,
yes, go on.
yeah, yeah. Like yeah, I think maybe at that age they're more sort of gender driven than generation. I'm not sure, but yeah. What was your question?
Yeah, so what needs to be done? South
What
Korea,
needs
what needs to be done?
That's a very broad question. Why don't you break it down to like a specific agenda or an issue?
Okay, okay. How about
We
I
talk
give
about
you the sort
education.
of no, okay, I'll give you my sort of high
Yeah.
level overview and then you
Yep.
can sort of break it down more because you would know more.
Yep.
So I reckon number one, fucking something needs to be done about that fucking education system. It's just fucking plain wrong. And I know like there is no perfect. I'm not saying there's a perfect system. By no means is the Australian freaking UAI or ATAR, whatever it's called now, system perfect as well. But certainly think it's a lot better than the Korean one. I'm not saying it has to be like obviously horses for courses, but what needs to be done is there needs to be some form of where it's not just you have to go to university to this, to that. So whether that means trades need to get some form of, standardized, income from companies and yada yada. Like that system needs an overhaul in general, and whether like that comes from government or together from corporate, whatever. But I know you've said like it's free market, like that's if that country decides that laborers get paid fuck all, and then administrators get paid all of the money, then that's the way it is. But I
Yeah,
think
but
that
do you think
causes
that's the
a lot
biggest
of
issue in
issues.
the education system? Like how the tradies don't get paid as much as the boomers?
I think there's a huge, I think that's a huge factor. I'm not saying that's the be all and end all, but
Okay,
I
sure.
swear there'll be so many students and kids in Korea who would
Mm,
be like, oh, if I can go and become a carpenter, or if I can go become a landscaper, or if I can become a tiler or whatever and
mm,
earn
mm,
in that same bracket, I just got to work harder physically, they would do it. But it's like here to here, it makes no sense in
mm.
that category. So I feel like there'll be heaps of, so then you'll ease that pressure of like, oh, all children need to go to university, all children need to
Oh
study
yeah,
this. Like it doesn't work because if everyone did that,
yeah.
who's going to do that kind of thing? So that's what causes that division in the first place. So that's number one.
Okay, sure,
Fix
sure.
fix
Let,
the
let, let's let's
education.
let's go one at a time then. Okay, so that's like a very deep-rooted thing. It's like a fucking Confucian thing in that they massively put the whole academic shit on the pedestal and really like look down upon manual labor and shit like that, right? Because if
That's
if
right. So that's what.
if if free market was at play, it just comes down to supply and demand, and if there's fucking not enough carpenters, they'll make big bucks and shit like that.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Mm,
But
mm.
this is my theory, all right? So because of that in Korea, it's like, oh, 나는 의사야. Oh, 나 의사예요. 네네. Like, oh, 나는 air condition 근처. You fucking. So my view is that shit will go away over time because it's like here, no one gives a shit if you're a doctor. Like only the fucking sucky ass Asians and stuff like that will be like, oh yeah, like doctor, that's so great. Like I don't give a fuck if you're a doctor or if you fix air cons, mate. If you're a good bloke, you're a good bloke, and if you're a fucking dickhead, you're a dickhead, right? Like that, and that generally is the vibe here from most people. Like you got like bloody old mate who's driving his bloody, Ford Ranger. Do you think he gives a fuck if you're a doctor? Like he doesn't care, right?
Mm, mm,
So that's what I'm saying. Like that shit will happen over time if that becomes standardized for whatever reason, right?
mm.
Um, so
So
that's
it'll
number
just
one.
happen with time. Like you don't have to do anything about it then. No?
Well, like bro, I'm not a bloody politician or smart administrator, but I'm just saying that's the crux of it. And then all the smart people who can come and do their thing and put whatever needs to be done in place.
Okay.
But I think that comes natural. Oh, and then, and just I think if you make a true free market, because a true free market, I actually feel more representative here. So, for example, if you're an admin person
Mm,
here, right,
mm.
like admin office, like just some junior admin slump, right, you're
Yep.
just getting paid 60K. No one's really paying you more than that. It's you're getting scaled at around 60, max 80, because you don't really do a skill that can't be replaced. So
Yep.
some other Joe can come and do your job, which is just like, hitting Excel, generating reports, whatever. There's no actual technical skill involved. But
Mm.
then if you're a landscaper here, you're going to be paid accordingly because you to find another landscaper to do what you can do is much harder than to find some admin slump, right?
Yes.
That's the way it is. I'm a
Yes.
cloud engineer. I get paid well because it's hard to find another cloud engineer. You know
Yes.
what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Yes.
that's just
Yes.
the way it works.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm saying like that will happen if you like, because in Korea though, you have a landscaper who's getting paid like shit compared to that random admin guy who
Yeah.
does nothing in Korea.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
So it's not. So
So
you're
that's what I'm saying.
you're making your own point in that it's not that big an issue. It'll resolve itself over time.
Correct. If you pay people right and let the free market happen in that sense, but
Yeah.
because it's for some reason, um, yeah, for like somehow like that shit just doesn't get paid in Korea, which I find surprising. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Due to deep-rooted cultural reasons that the people who are employing those services refuse to pay more. I think that's what it is.
yeah, and then that's what I mean. The people who have to do that, they're stuck because they can't really go on strike or whatever here. And then which happens here, like train drivers go on strike and whole system. So I'm saying like anyway, that's the first thing I think Korea can do. That would be
Right.
that would help if
Yep.
we're talking like left. If we're talking for the peoples, I
Yep.
think that's something that could definitely help. Um, Number two, and this is like, and this could be unpopular, but I think you got to start telling the big chaebol companies to give back to the country. And I know this is fucking bugging and shit, and this is like fucking, oh, you fucking lefty bastard. Bro, they've earned enough. So I'm saying, like, just give back to the peoples, man, the Korean peoples. But I'm saying, like, not just handouts and shit. I'm saying create internship scholarships for people who from lower socioeconomic background. But you know what I'm saying? Don't just keep using that system. 너 서울대 나와서 예 와서 엑셀하고 프린트할 수 있어. 연봉 줄게. 야, 너 지방대 나왔어? 너 엑셀 못해. Like kind of that.
Just
So
to give some
yeah.
context to the viewers, Boz obviously worked in Korea and also worked for a big corporation, a Korean corporation here in Australia. So he has the yeah, ideas about how Korean companies work. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, just my 2 cents, man. But yeah, and yeah, like and also Koreans, man, they don't like the companies. I'm not saying the workers are bad, but the way they work is just not efficient as well. Like the 보고서s, man, the reporting and stuff. It's like, oh, fool have to like, oh, 어떻게 쓰지? 어떻게 써야지 이게 맞지 and stuff. And then here it's just like, hey, mate, service up, give it a go. Like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whole culture thing, though.
Yeah, you would vote left in Korea, wouldn't you?
I think, yeah, in this current climate, yes, just Korea come a bit more left for the
Yeah.
peoples a bit, but
Yeah.
again, not just again, it's not about the handouts and all of that, but it's about giving them opportunities. So like there should be scholarships, internships, pathways for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds or from the chibangs or whatever. Give everyone a chance.
Isn't that ironic?
Give more people a chance.
Yeah, so I too would be leaning left if I was in Korea, whereas I'm leaning right here in Australia. But ironically, Australia is the richer country and Korea is the poorer country.
Is
Like,
Korea the poorer country?
of course it is, mate.
Yeah, like natural resources and shit. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
just like, GDP per
Oh,
capita.
you mean for the people? Oh, yeah, yeah, GDP per capita. Yeah, yeah. I thought you meant
Yeah,
like
so
country
like
as a country.
which
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Korea should be shooting more for growth, whereas Australia should be shooting more for distribution. But our sort of focus for those two countries are different. We feel that Korea needs to focus more on distribution, and Australia should. I don't think Australia should focus more on growth, but I just think Australia is too focused on distribution. Like I can't fucking stand the dole bludgeoning that we have in this country. And those people who don't deserve to make a living should be fucking on the street, not getting government handouts.
Yeah, no, it's too socialist. Yeah, like that's the thing, bro. I'm in that. Like I said, I'm not some crazy high income earner, but I'm in that bracket where I'm like, mate, earning great, but getting taxed like a mofo and struggling, like, mate, prices are up and stuff, and then like yet, someone can live in a bloody basically brand new townhouse in the housings in Manly and shit. Like, I mean, just something's not right here. Something's not right.
Yeah.
I'm serious, but there's like housing in
Yeah, yeah,
Manly
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. It's
Yeah,
crazy,
like
right?
yeah, hey, man, most of them are pretty shit, and like they're not places like you'd want to live. Most of them.
Mate, North Shore, mate. Why not, buddy? Why not? Nah, nah, nah. Golden West, mate. Western suburbs forever.
Yeah.
But now, for real though, so yeah, that's I guess one thing about Korea is that so that's what I'm saying. Like, what would you do? So for me, like education, obviously, it would be a
Yeah.
big thing. Like, what would you do?
Education is massive, and I think it's definitely I don't care about like trades and or whatever. It's just about the reason that people spend so much on private education, and it's fucking astronomical, like how much money people spend on this shit. And it's because it's their way of just changing their lives. Like, you go to fucking 좋은 대학, you're set. Like, whatever you do before that, like, doesn't matter. Your life changes. It's just that it's a shame that the more money you put into it, invest into your education, the more likely you're going to have that result, and then that kind of perpetuates itself. So um, I think, yeah, the testing system, or like the entry system into universities, that I think it has to sort of start from there. Or maybe you go further back, and maybe you tweak around how companies employ people, like not necessarily based on universities, but more around competency. And I guess that's my kind of professional hat coming in. But yeah, maybe that's the place to start. If companies are truly incentivized, um, if they're working in their self-interest to pick the best people, they wouldn't necessarily pick people who are just academically, who've just kind of played the game right to go into the best unis. So, yeah, I would encourage that somehow from the government perspective. Um, yeah, and I would, oh yeah, like obviously the low birth rate is a massive issue, um, but. But I don't know. For some reason, I think it'll be fine. Like,
What do you mean by it'll be fine? Like the data projects like the population and all that by 2070 or whatever. It's like shocking, shocking. So, or do you think that's just the way Korea should go? Less people and then
yeah,
start
yeah,
fresh.
yeah. Okay, like, okay,
Yeah.
if population dwindles, it's fine. Um, if it gets so bad and babies become so rare again, I think it'll balance itself out, and people will start pumping out babies. If they get desperate, they'll just open up and open up for immigration. If they get extra fucking more desperate, maybe they'll unify and get all the free labor from North. Like, I don't know, shit will just work itself out.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that will happen is like because you already get heaps of money in Korea to have babies, so the lesser it becomes, the more they can give. So you get to the point where like, oh, it'd be like really worth having it. But then it comes with a lot of problems. There's a lot of freaking child abuse. Like Korea has its own issues with that at the moment because people had kids for
From
money and
parents?
stuff. Dude, some of the stories, man, like,
Like what?
wife told me a recent one, and I was like, okay, so there was this guy who had an affair
Hmm.
but didn't want to
Is
pay
this
child
from
support.
fucking that 이혼 숙녀 program?
I don't know if it's from somewhere,
I
but
bet it
like,
is. But anyway, go on.
yeah, probably is, but like it's a fucking shocking story. But
Yeah, go on,
but
go
yeah,
on.
like so this guy, he divorced, but he
Yep,
didn't want to pay child support, so he took the kid,
yep,
right, with
yep,
his new girlfriend, and the
yep.
girlfriend, how cold Korea is, obviously, like
Mm,
minus 10, 20 degrees and whatnot, and then like because she abused the kid, like she
mm,
would lock him in the toilet.
mm,
There's no boiler in the toilet,
mm,
just in his undies and shit.
mm,
So he's like basically almost freezing to death. And then one night had an argument with the dad or whatever, and she got pissed off, obviously taking it out on him. So she poured Lux, like basically
yeah, yeah, yeah,
bleach.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
She poured bleach all over him,
Yeah.
and that's like acidic and stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's like 6 years old, yeah. And
Right,
then
right.
he died. He died. He died because he was just
Well,
cold, yeah.
as sad a story as that is, that has nothing to do with how babies are rare in Korea, yeah?
I'm saying like people just popping out kids who don't want kids for the
Right,
money
right.
and stuff.
Oh, you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
saying
That shit's happening, right?
you're
You know,
saying so this couple popped kids just for money.
no, no, I'm saying shit like this gonna happen and has been happening. So
Right,
do you know
right,
there's a huge issue now? So you know how much money you get for having a baby in Korea right now?
right. No, I remember Wu mentioned
Okay.
something.
So basically, if you have a kid now, you'll get pretty much like roughly, I think it's like and it depends on region in Korea as well.
Mm.
But like, let's say it averages that you get like 3 grand per month for like the first 6 months,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then you get like 1K a month for like 2 years.
Right, right.
Dude, that's a
And
lot of money for
this is Koreans living in Korea, right?
Koreans living in Korea, obviously. But so if you get like that money, so imagine like poor families and shit. So you're getting like some back that's like massive. They might be on like 100K income total, and then they're getting like 300 for like 6 months or whatever, and
Mm.
then they get 100 like pingman on for like 2 years and stuff. And yeah, like, and so you know what people have been using it on. So they've been using that on like it's meant to be for the kid, but
Mm.
the kid will get neglected, malnutrition, and they would use that for video games, food, like as in for themselves, like
Yeah.
alcohol. So that doesn't. This is the problems that South
No,
Korea
but hey,
has.
dude, like, as in, you're talking about the minority, man.
No, it's like obvious it's a minority, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about these are the issues that arise.
Yeah, yeah,
That
of course, of
again,
course.
this
There's
is
going to be issues
this
with any policy, but like, as in,
a
when you
hundred
look at the
percent.
big
Look, dude,
picture,
100%, mate. But no, dude, that shit's it's getting far too. We're not talking about when you have like, so in IT we have this thing like 97% success rate's good, 3% error rates bad. It's getting to that point where the 3% error rate's becoming 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% unacceptable error rate. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
What's your source?
it, huh?
What's your
My
source?
wife. My
This
wife. Nah,
fucking
but
job.
like, hey, no. Apparently, though, there's
Yeah,
there's an actual task force
yeah,
on this. So it's
yeah,
serious enough to have a task force, and they
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah,
knocking on doors now,
yeah,
knocking,
yeah. I get that.
and
Yeah,
they've because there's been like 2,000 kids that haven't reported back and stuff. They go through that, they
yeah,
haven't
yeah, yeah.
reported back because they haven't checked in. A lot of
Mm.
them have been killed, man, killed. Like under 5, 3, 2-year-olds and stuff. It's crazy, man. It's
I'm too much
crazy.
of a optimist to really think too big of these issues. To be honest with you.
Nah, 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 nah. This shit's real, there. This shit's real. But I'm just saying, like, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff is a stem of, you know, the dark side of South Korea. And that's the thing. This is why we go back to, if it all ties back to when, the Korean hip hop, remember the dark side shit, the shit that people don't want to hear about, man.
yeah,
This is the shit real issues that happen. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that sort of stuff, again, is probably politics, policy, and all that stuff. It all affects it, right?
mm-mm. No doubt, no doubt.
Mm.
Korea is a very super interesting country. Like, not I'm not saying it because I was I'm Korean myself, but
Because your background is Korean, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's just so many layers of like the whole historical shit of like how they were fucked between like the neighboring superpowers and then the coups and then the economic advancement, all these fucking impeachments. Like there's just so much interesting shit that's yeah, percolating around.
Yes.
And
Yeah. So much to love about it, but and be proud of, but so much that's just like fucked as well, right? It's crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's definitely make like as you said, very interesting
yeah,
compared to like an Australia, I guess, per
yeah,
se.
very interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Anyway,
right.
I think we can leave it there. It's been a very interesting episode, I would say.
Uneducated politics.
All right. Any final ending words you want to leave it at?
This is what I say, man, when it comes to politics. This is why I always tell my wife as well. Mate, I ain't smart enough to change the world or nothing. I just say protect the family first, wife and kids. That's it. Let the policy sort itself out. But that's I think Australia. I'm blessed because I'm able to do that because I live in Australia. You know what I mean? There are some countries in this world where you can't do that. So I guess it's a bit of privilege as well, no doubt. That's
Right.
my closing statement. Yourself?
Yeah. I know that politics is a very sensitive and like cautious issue for a lot of people, and I understand it. Like the fact that they're like, you know, determines a lot of the underlying sort of fundamental principles and values. But we should be able to sort of talk about it and discuss it openly, and share views without having judgment and bigoting and shit like that. That's what I believe.
Agreed. Make Australia great again.
Mother. Okay. All right. All right. On that
All
note,
right,
we'll leave it
nah.
there. Peace out, mate.
Peace. Peace.